For most of its 40-plus years in existence, the Star Wars saga has revolved around the Skywalker family. So much so that when it came out, Episode 9, Rise of Skywalker, was actually marketed as the end of the Skywalker saga. But while they are often portrayed as the heroes the galaxy couldn't have lived without, the reality is that the history of the Skywalkers hasn't always been so rosy. And in addition to all the questionable moves they made, the events of Rise of Skywalker also calls into question whether they were really that important to begin with. Did the Skywalkers deserve the heroic reverence they received, or were they nothing more than glorified bystanders, or even worse, part of the problem? Does the good that they did really outweigh the misery the entire family brought down on the galaxy? Let's take a look at their actions over the years, and whether their legacy should be one of honor or disgrace. Let's start at the end of Return of the Jedi. The Skywalkers were saviors. Anakin Skywalker's accomplishments as a Jedi were legendary, and while he did turn to the dark side and bring death and destruction across the galaxy, he redeemed himself by returning to the light and killing Palpatine. At least, it seemed that way at the time, destroying the Sith in the process. His son, Luke Skywalker, had not only brought about Anakin's redemption, but himself become a Jedi Master and the man who would pass his knowledge on to a new generation of Jedi. By the time the sequel trilogy ended, we now know that Anakin's sacrifice hadn't done the job, and the prophecy declaring him the Chosen One had been failed since the Emperor survived. Luke had indeed started a Jedi temple to pass on his knowledge as he had promised Yoda, but he was then betrayed, his Jedi wiped out, and instead of doing something about it, he ran and hid on Ahch-To and waited to die while leaving the rest of the galaxy to their fate. Leia, who had apparently trained as a Jedi herself, ended up abandoning her lightsaber and training, and was thus powerless to stop the First Order from taking over the galaxy. Then there's Ben Solo, the last Skywalker, who failed as a Jedi, and in his desperation to be respected as the equal of his grandfather, allowed himself to be used as a puppet by first Snoke and then the Emperor. He failed to defeat every capable opponent put in front of him, and ended up dying at the hands of the Emperor, while Rey was the one who, as far as we're aware at this time, finally destroyed the Emperor once and for all. When you look at the family legacy as a whole, outside of a few scant temporary victories, the legacy of the Skywalker family is darkness and failure. They repeatedly gave in to their darker emotions, even Luke at times, and despite the family literally being created by the Force to defeat the darkness, were unable to fulfill that task. Meanwhile, the granddaughter of Palpatine was the one the galaxy had really been waiting for all that time. The original trilogy gave the appearance that Star Wars was the story of Luke Skywalker's rise, from anonymous farm boy on a backwater planet to Jedi Knight and savior of the galaxy. The prequel trilogy changed that perspective and showed us that it was actually the story of Anakin Skywalker's tragic fall and ultimate redemption. Now the sequel trilogy says that none of this is true, and Star Wars is really the story of the Palpatine family, as Sheev Palpatine rose to power and subjugated the galaxy, and even survived his own death to attempt to reclaim power. In the meantime, his heroic and previously unknown son defied his father and gave his life to protect his daughter, who grew up to be the heroine who finally brought the conflict to an end. When you stand back and look at the whole thing, you realize that not only were the Palpatine family the ones who both subjugated the galaxy and freed it, but they were also far more powerful than the Skywalkers. Not once did a Skywalker defeat a Palpatine in lightsaber combat, or combat of any kind, and their Force abilities were far beyond anything that the Skywalkers were ever seen to muster. Thanks for watching, and as always, I'd love to hear your thoughts on whether you think the Skywalkers deserve to be revered as heroes or scorned as part of the problem, and whether you think Star Wars is actually the story of the Palpatine family rather than the Skywalkers. Please leave your thoughts in the comments section below, and if you'd like to help support the Star Wars Wavelength channel, please click subscribe to be notified whenever new videos are posted. Thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you. Always.